Oromoodha. Keenyattiin dhaladhee ammaan tana Austraaliyaa Melbourne dhufe.
Geza ani guddachuu fedha waan ani ta'uu fedhu mechanic engineer ta'uu fedha.
Biyya Norway keessa jiraadha. Innaa guddadhee sirbituu ta'uu barbaada.
Ani guddataa barsiistuu ta'a. Ansheeqa ta'e booda iskoola deemuuf deema. Muuziqaa ta'e.
Gaafan guddadhu taphataa ta'uun fedha. Taphataa mirga namaaf lolu gaaka.
Doktara ta'uu barbaada. Nama gargaaruu, nama fayyisuu barbaada.
Maqaan kiyya toltuu ta Abdulwahaab Muhammad Tufaati. Ani magaalaa Melbourne kan biyya Austraaliyaa keessa dhaladhee guddadhe. Fedhiin kiyya ijoollummaarraa haga ammaati barsiiftuu ta'uu, ijoollee barsiisuuf ture.
The population of Oromos are 40 million in the Horn of Africa alone. Their language, Afaan Oromo, is the most widely spoken language in Africa after Hausa, Swahili and Arabic.
Until 1992, the language was banned by the government, punishable as a crime or imprisonment. People in reality were being tortured, imprisoned, raped, and this started just over 100 years ago, where men were being castrated, women had their breasts cut off. The population was reduced from 10 million to 5 million. Dad left Oromia at a time where it was really unsafe to be Oromo. It was during the Red Terror regime, and basically made his way over to Australia and got married and started his own family. Dad was the first person to arrive in Australia to live here permanently. There were Oromo people who came to Australia before him, but they came on a temporary basis. Even though my mum wasn't Oromo, we lived in a foreign country, he was very conscious that his children learnt his language, and he went out of his way to make sure we spoke Afaan Oromo. At the time, I don't think I knew why he wanted us to speak Oromo, but now that I think back in hindsight, speaking Afaan Oromo, speaking the language, was his connection back to the homeland. And by teaching his children that language, he was in effect connecting to the homeland through us and allowing us to be able to connect back to his sense of home. The resources that exist for Oromo children at the moment are next to none. The way Oromo is taught in Australia, and I'm guessing in a lot of places around the world, is basically a teacher standing at the front of the classroom with a whiteboard marker or a chalk and just writing down from the top of their head and teaching to children verbally through rote learning. So I would like to improve that. That's what I'd like to do. The resources are there in some parts of the world, but I'd like to make them ones that people can relate to. They're not accessible, they're not easy to get hold of, and a lot of them can do with a bit of a makeover.
With my background in education, in terms of curriculum development and framework, I know what I'm doing. I've been teaching the Oromo language in Melbourne for over 10 years now.
In terms of the language, I made sure that I got the right people on board to know that we're teaching children the right things. The second part of it was trying to find the right illustrators, graphic designers, to make sure that the actual work looks visually, aesthetically pleasing to children and is something that you find in your local primary school. And I was lucky enough to source that. The last hurdle that I needed to overcome was to make sure I can print everything that's available.
I want to make sure that everyone can afford to buy these books, and right now, that's where I need the most help. If people want to buy these books at reasonable prices, they need to be available cheaply, hence the need for mass printing.
I asked the printer how much it would cost to print my textbook, and he said $15 a book, which was way too expensive. You just can't go anywhere with $15 a book for families. So he said to me, with the economies of scale, if I had $50,000, then I can arrange to have every book for every series of every textbook and be able to print them so families can buy them at cheap and affordable prices. I'm talking $5 or $6 a book.
My dream has always been to create books in the Oromo language for every child, in every family, in every home.
Every pledge that you make will help to enrich the identity of every Oromo child that was robbed from their parents before them. Nothing like this has ever been done before.
There is a problem, and I've got the solution. And together, we can make it happen.
I've started this in Melbourne because it's where I live. I have a local community that I can help, but I know that the works that I'm doing here is not relevant just to people in Melbourne. And I know already from the places I've travelled to that people have a very keen interest in seeing this progress, and that's why I need people's help. I think there's a lot of beauty in the Oromo culture. I was lucky enough to have it shown to me so I could see it for what it is. And I wish that young children were able to see that too. And I know that a lot of them do see it, but you can reach out to so many more if you had the right tools. And I remember when I made my first poster and I showed it to my dad, I showed it to my sisters, I showed it to my family, and their eyes just welled up in tears. And that was pretty big. That's when I knew I was onto something.